Get ready. Get set. It's time for the basement view. Hey, how's it going? Man, here we are. Wednesday. 2 weeks before another year. Hey, Carmen, happy Wednesday. Absolutely. In 2 weeks, we will be in another year. It'll be 2025. You know what? You remember Y2K? Remember everybody was scared about Y2K? Man, we're about to be 25 years beyond Y2K. Man, that is crazy. So, happy to be here. Glad you could make it. Hit that thumbs up for me. I was just sitting here reminiscing. I almost went way back. The world was going to end. Hey, James. Yeah, Carmen, the world was going to end. You know, the computers wasn't going to work. All kind of crazy shit was supposed to happen. You know, everything was supposed to stop. And here we are, 25 years after 2000. Wow, is that crazy or what? That is crazy. Matter of fact, oh, by the way, if I didn't say it, punch that thumbs up for me. I'm getting absent-minded here. Helps the algorithm on this YouTube thing. So, today, Elon Musk is out there telling Congress not to pass a stopgap spending bill that will keep the government running. He wants to shut the government down until Trump takes office. He literally wants to shut it down. Hey, Lisa, how are you? So this guy wants to shut the government down. And yeah, that's what he said, man. Yeah. So, and Trump is, chiming in with that. So they want to shut the government down and not pass any kind of bills whatsoever until Trump gets in office. Now, sounds crazy to me. So that'll put a lot of people out of work. And they'll be asking some people to work without pay. Because remember the last shutdown. People had to go into work because, there's parts of the government that can't be shut down on a dime like that. So now Mike Johnson is up there shaking in his boots because now he's got to figure out a plan to not make Trump and Elon Musk mad. Elon Musk said anybody that votes for a plan right now should be voted out of office. Now, if you want to scare these guys, just say that to them. If you want to scare these guys, start talking about voting them out of office. That scares the hell out of them. They've come so accustomed to wanting to be in that office that they will do anything to keep it. And I mean anything. So, as a possibility, The government will shut down sometime in the near future. Let's find out. Huh. How about that? Also, what's going on also is apparently the old postmaster is up to his dirty deeds again. I don't know if you know this guy, but Postmaster Louis DeJoy, this guy right here in the picture, the bald head gentleman with his hands over his ears, refusing to listen during his hearing in Congress today. That guy's up to his old tricks again. Don't know if you remember, but Trump put that guy in, and he put him in to literally destroy the post office. He literally put this guy in to destroy the post office because the post office is the biggest union in the country. And remember, Trump and the Republicans don't like unions. So they put that guy in, and he immediately, when he first went to work, one of his first acts was to rip brand new sorting machines out of post offices. The machines that they use to sort the mail, just rip them out and scrap them. What did that do? It slowed the mail down. And of course, yours truly knows this firsthand. I just got an item today that was sent to me on the 2nd of December. I ordered a package. They sent it out on the 2nd, and it just got to me today. Now, I don't know why a package coming from New Jersey takes over 2 weeks. You tell me. And why a package from New Jersey is routed through Illinois. You tell me. But this is Louis DeJoy's handiwork. So we're going to take a minute. Let's take a minute and just look at Mr. DeJoy during this meeting today in Congress and look at how he acts.
The United States Postal Service is much more than a delivery system. It is a lifeline. People depend on it for medications, checks, ballots, and much more. But Mr. DeJoy, your leadership has placed this lifeline at risk. Your decisions to diminish services and consolidate processing plants have had devastating impacts on my constituents in the Massachusetts 7th. One constituent from Somerville reports missing checks and legal documents, describing how she repeatedly contacted USPS only to have her cases closed with false assurances. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this constituent letter from May 2024.
Without objection, so ordered.
Another constituent in Grove Hall waited for time-sensitive letters regarding her Social Security disability benefits that never arrived. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this constituent letter from August 2024.
Without objection, so ordered.
These are not isolated incidents. More than 80 Roxbury residents signed a letter to my office regarding the understaffed local post office. Here is an excerpt. It's common for customers to have to wait 30 to 45 minutes for service, and frequently no one is at any of the windows. The building often feels abandoned. They go on to describe delivery services and issues. Mail service in the surrounding zip codes has been similarly terrible for years now. Despite truly wonderful mail carriers, we frequently experience issues such as mail delays of 2 to 4 weeks, lost mail, misdelivered mail, and mail left outside of mailboxes. One constituent even reported being unable to pay their rent due to the delivery of a late Social Security check. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this constituent letter from April 2024.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. DeJoy, maybe if Congress should pass a law that forces you to receive all your income and prescriptions via postal mail, would you think it acceptable to have to wait a month or more to pay your bills or to take your medication? Yes or no? Do you think it's acceptable, yes or no?
I don't think it's acceptable.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just curious, having listened to your testimony earlier today, and since you agree this is not an acceptable cadence of service, what grade would you give yourself?
I would give myself an A.
Okay, I vigorously disagree with that assessment.
I knew you would.
I would certainly.
Now, did you see this jackass just say he would give himself an A? After the complaints that they're getting, he said he'd give himself an A. Somebody should have went down there and pimp slapped his ass just for that. And yes, Carmen, if they privatize it, they most surely can charge more. As a matter of fact, you know, I don't even know how that would work, you know, because they probably have to hire the same letter carriers to do the job. Let's continue.
Give you a failing grade. What immediate actions will you take to restore reliable services in communities like Roxbury, Grove Hall, and Hyde Park, and Somerville in my district?
Well, in terms of general actions, it's the same actions and efforts that I've taken since I walked in the door here 4 years ago to try and improve the Postal Service. My staff will take down the names of the cities you asked about, and I will look into them specifically.
All right. During unannounced visits to Roxbury and Grove Hall branches, I want to transition into workforce for a moment. I saw firsthand that workers are demoralized and under-resourced, leaving communities underserved. I'm grateful to the American Postal Workers Union for raising the alarm on this and standing up for their members. On your watch, Mr. DeJoy, the USPS has been undermined across the board and even prompted audits of postal operations throughout Boston neighborhoods. Ms. Hull, after complaints from my office and others in the Massachusetts delegation, the Office of the Inspector General, in fact, launched an investigation. I look forward to reading that forthcoming report on these audits. In the meantime, how can my constituents who continue to struggle unjustly with USPS services when they have concerns around where should they communicate? Via hotline, a website, or other means?
Yeah, our hotline is definitely open and available. We get a number of hotline complaints, probably this last year about 350,000 complaints. We use those complaints. We obviously can't respond to every single one, but we use data analytics very effectively to identify hotspots around the country.
What is the hotline?
Our hotline, you can go to our website at uspsoig.gov, and there's a hotline form. All those complaints come in, and we look at all of them using data analytics to identify where hotspots are occurring, and use that to inform where we do audit work and investigative work as well.
All right, thank you very much. You know, it is, in fact, the collective action of my constituents and those from communities across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that brought attention to these issues, and I'm proud to stand alongside them. And Mr. DeJoy will keep the pressure up until we see a restoration of equitable, reliable services, because every community deserves exactly that. Thank you, and I yield back.
Chair recognizes Ms. Crockett from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to talk about CARS, cons, concepts of a plan, and compensation. I'm going to actually start with the cons. There has been mention of DOGE and how that is going to come into play. And I'm curious to know, just yes or no, Inspector General Hull, quick question. Have you found that if the post office was to cut its workforce by 75%, that would somehow fix all of the problems within the post office? Yes or no?
No, we've not done any work in that area like that.
Thank you. Postmaster DeJoy, are you anticipating that a 75% cut in your workforce would solve all of the problems of the post office? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. So it's interesting because my colleagues seem to be so excited because there's a new sheriff in town, and the co-sheriffs of the DOGE committee, more specifically, Mr. Ramaswamy, has actually proposed cutting 75% of our federal workforce to try to rein in some of the spending. Now, I want to talk about cars because cars have been discussed a lot as well as it relates to spending. And I want to know from you, Postmaster General, can you tell me approximately what is the lifespan of one of your postal vehicles? And I know you have various vehicles, so let me just say the letter carrier vehicles that they drive.
Letter carriers have a few different vehicles. Commercial off-the-shelf vehicles will last us 6-7 years.
Okay.
The special purpose built vehicles that we had, the LLVs that we had were supposed to last 20. They wound up we're using them 30. Our new vehicles that we're buying, a special purpose vehicle, we expect to last longer than 20 years or longer.
Okay. So as we are comparing the various costs, and there's been a lot of conversation about the fact that there are electric vehicles, and it's my understanding that the electric vehicles are the ones that now have air conditioning, correct?
All the vehicles now have air
Okay.
conditioning, but yes.
You know, earlier it was brought up, and the reason that I care so deeply about the vehicle situation is that my constituent, Eugene Gates, was brought up earlier, who lost his life. This was somebody who did not need extra hours of training on how to properly hydrate, because this was someone who dedicated almost 40 years of his life to the post office. The reality is that the working conditions were not working. That's just the reality. This is someone who had done this job for so long. And I'm going to be honest, and I know that your office has received letters from us regarding Mr. Gates, but I am concerned, as my colleague, Mr. Kassar, laid out, that we still haven't figured out how to modernize and make sure that the working environment is going to work for our postal employees. So for instance, as you are rolling out these new vehicles, have you decided on a way to prioritize where these vehicles are going to go? And does that overlap with the areas in which we know, say, experience the most extreme heat conditions, such as in places like Texas? Have they been prioritized?
Yeah, so we're not filling the whole need, right? So there is a process of replacement of vehicles that
The United States Post.
Okay. Now, let me stop that right there. Just so we all know who Mr. Gates is. Mr. Gates is a gentleman who lost his life because he was riding around in Texas, I believe it was, in a vehicle with no air conditioning. Now, that's crazy if you're out in the summer in Texas in a tin can with no air. We've all seen what those postal vehicles look like. Now, fortunately, my personal letter carrier is driving a new vehicle. You know, I just noticed that about a month ago. So maybe they are getting this crap together. I don't know. Like I said, Mr. DeJoy has been a wrecking ball ever since they put him in the Postmaster General position. And I do not know, for the life of me, why the Biden administration did not work day and night to get him out. I do know that they had a couple of favorable board members on the postal board that did not want to get rid of him. I do not know why these people were not pressured to get rid of this guy. I do not know why they literally just let this guy stay, because this guy was there just to get rid of the post office. And I know for a fact that they would have loved to have had FedEx and UPS. They would bicker over contracts, and the person with the lowest bid will get the contract, and it would be terrible. It would be terrible. I tell you what, I refuse to send anything FedEx. FedEx is the worst. Well, DHL is worse than FedEx, and then FedEx, in my opinion, and then UPS. But FedEx is another one of those companies. I don't know why, but something mailed to Indiana will end up in Illinois, St. Louis. Like, hey, how does something coming from Tennessee end up going through St. Louis and Illinois? You know, seemed like a straight shot from Tennessee, you know, up through Indiana. You know, I don't know what their routes are, but seems like a crazy way to go. You know, maybe it's the hub system. I don't know. But, you know, that's just crazy, the way these people are doing this. So, and as Ms. Crockett mentioned, Mr. Ramaswamy wants to get rid of 75% of federal workers. Now, technically, the post office is technically not a federal job. It is one of those quasi-government jobs. So it has its own funding source. So I don't know how they would work that out. Also, these people intend on cutting $2 trillion from the federal budget. Now, part of that is through cutting agencies that have not been reauthorized by Congress. Well, one of those agencies is the VA. I thought they were supposed to be favorable to the veterans. So I guess as a veteran, I can see what's coming down. Just so you know. I tell you what, this is getting interesting. I mean, and they want to not pass any bills until he gets in office. You know how ugly that could be. If they didn't fund the government until this guy gets in the office, that could be a disaster. Especially with what's going on around the world. This is not the time to be playing that crazy stuff. But this is what we got. Don't know what to tell you. So, moving on. One other thing that's out there in the open is this mass deportation. A lot of people, talking about this mass deportation. Yeah, James, this is what the people wanted. This is what the people wanted. Again, I've been trying to steer clear of the crazy stuff, but they seem to have more of it on a daily basis. There's more crazy on a daily basis, As I said earlier, when I spoke to you, the television pundits are still saying the same stuff. They're still asking, how did he win? They're not telling the truth about that. And I thought when Trump did this interview about mass deportation, I came across this clip and I wanted to play it. So let's look at this clip on the mass deportation.
In his third presidential bid, Donald Trump made immigration a central component of his campaign. Beyond his promise of carrying out the largest mass deportation operation in history, Trump also vowed to tighten the border and make big changes to America's immigration system, including the possibility of ending birthright citizenship. Now, as he's poised to take office again, he's doubling down on that promise.
You promised to end birthright citizenship. on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an executive action?
We're going to have to get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Through an executive action?
You know, we're the only country that has it. Do you know, if somebody sets a foot, just a foot, 1 foot, you don't need two, on our land, congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America. Yes, we're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
That interview was just last week, and it was Trump's first interview since winning the election. And before we move on, let's do some cleanup on aisle 14, because Donald Trump got a couple of facts wrong in that telling. The United States is not the only country that grants birthright citizenship. More than 30 other countries around the world have the same policy, including both of our closest neighbors, Canada and Mexico. It's also not true that the United States grants citizenship to just anyone by setting foot on American soil. Birthright citizenship, as Kristen Welker noted in that interview, is enshrined in the 14th Amendment. Indeed, Section 1 of the 14th Amendment states very plainly, quote, all people born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States and the state where they reside. And while Donald Trump seemed only to have concepts of a plan for getting around the 14th Amendment in his mission to end birthright citizenship, it does seem that some in Trump world are coming up with a strategy for taking this on. The Trump campaign laid out a plan in Agenda 47, that's Trump's official policy manifesto, to use executive orders to direct federal agencies to deny passports and Social Security numbers to the children of undocumented immigrants. That would, of course, be plainly unconstitutional, and lawsuits would immediately be filed. But according to Politico's reporting this weekend, that might be the point. All of this seems to be part of a long-term strategy to get the issue of birthright citizenship and presidential authority over the conferral of citizenship before the Supreme Court, which, don't forget, is controlled by a 6-3 conservative supermajority that includes 3 Trump appointees. The incoming administration wants to take birthright citizenship to the United States Supreme Court because they think they can win there. So it's worth taking stock of just how radical this idea is. And to do that, we need to understand what birthright citizenship is, why it exists in the first place, and why efforts to undermine it are inherently rooted in a history of white supremacy. The 14th Amendment is one of the 3 Reconstruction-era amendments that Congress added to the United States Constitution after the United States Civil War. It was passed with the purpose of unequivocally granting citizenship to the formerly enslaved and their descendants. Moreover, the 14th Amendment was meant to be a corrective to the Supreme Court's 1858 decision in Dred Scott versus Stanford, the decision that many legal scholars consider to be, quote, the worst ever rendered by the Supreme Court. And there were a lot to choose from. In that case, Dred Scott, an enslaved man who traveled with his enslaver to free territories, sued for his freedom after his enslaver died. But the majority of the justices on the Supreme Court concluded that slaves were not citizens of the United States. In fact, the court questioned whether the descendants of African slaves could ever be citizens of the United States. The Supreme Court dismissed Dred Scott's case on procedural grounds, holding that as a non-citizen, Scott had no standing to bring his claim in federal court in the first instance. But the 14th Amendment sought to remedy the stain of Dred Scott by making it clear that regardless of their descent, all persons born in the United States are citizens of the United States. And subsequent Supreme Court cases have affirmed this principle over the years. Of note is the case of Wong Kim Ark, a man of Chinese descent who was born in California in 1873. His parents were legal immigrants, but at the time, anti-Asian sentiment was pervasive across the country. This was the era of the Chinese Exclusion Acts, which included a provision that rendered Chinese immigrants ineligible for naturalization as American citizens. The Supreme Court, however, found that because Wong Kim Ark himself was born here in the United States, he was a citizen of the United States under the 14th Amendment. That's jus soli, birthright citizenship. Wong Kim Ark's case confirmed this important principle going forward, and the case is a precedent that holds to this day. The text and the history of birthright citizenship is absolutely clear. If you are born in this country, you are a citizen of this country. And establishing that principle and enshrining it in the Constitution was an integral part of repudiating the terroristic institution of slavery in this country. To undermine the Constitution's guarantee of birthright citizenship in any way would be a return to some of our nation's darkest days, a surrender to some of the worst impulses in our history.
Okay. So, little history lesson. So, birthright citizenship is the 14th Amendment, in the 14th Amendment. And it was brought about to ensure that if you were born here, you are a citizen. Well, if you got a guy who has been elected, who has said on day one he intends to declare a federal emergency, their argument is by declaring this federal emergency, you can suspend the Constitution. This is the only way that you can order the military to mass deport people. The only way to be able to order the U.S. military to get involved in citizenship issues is through emergency action. And once you do that, by argument, suspends the Constitution. Now, I do not know how the Supreme Court's going to take that, because if you suspend the Constitution, that means they have no say. So, are they going to sit back and let old boy Trump take their power from him? You tell me. Because, that's absolutely what that means. If you suspend the Constitution, there is no Supreme Court. So, what do you think? Personally, this is going to be one hell of a show to watch. Because that's the only way you can do any mass deportation. Or you can deputize. I guess he's got about 600 folks coming out of jail up in D.C. 700 about to come out of jail. I guess he could deputize them, to do some mass deportating. Give them some trucks and guns. I'm pretty sure they'll be willing to, do whatever he wants them to do. This ought to be good. This ought to be good. I hope something or someone can intervene. James, you say you believe he's going to do just that. Unfortunately, I have to agree with you. Hate to say it. He's damn sure going to try it. I've never heard of an emergency situation in this country before. They may have done it back during the civil rights eras when they were sending the National Guard in to protect students and stuff like that, or storm the colleges. I don't recall, if emergency declaration was used during those periods, and nobody can stop him. Well, that's something we're going to find out. that's something we definitely going to find out. The as a matter of fact, I think all of that National Guard stuff back then was done on the state level, I believe. Then again, I could be wrong. That could have been a federal issue. But nothing of this magnitude that I recall ever happening where somebody is going to literally take the U.S. military and get them involved. The emergency declaration will be a wrap. Man, I tell you what. Boy, that would just be ugly. That would just be plain ugly. You know, I don't know why he said he was going to do it. But you know, there would be a lot of stuff going on. You know, imagine the miscarriages of justice as a side note. If you got the military running around the country and other law enforcement agencies trying to root out illegals, imagine all of the side stuff that would be going on. You know, all of the human rights violations that would be going on, you know, aside from the grabbing of illegals. Man, there'd be blood in the streets. You know? Because the first thing all of them stop and frisk advocates are going to be doing is anything with brown skin. They're going to want to stop them. You know? Anything with brown skin. You know? And you know how ugly that could get. That could get ugly real fast. So, you know, hey, I hope it don't come to that. Man, sometimes, you know, I think to myself, shoot, after this first month, just chill out. Just chill out and watch this shit from the window, you know. Shut the blinds and peek through them blinds, you know. Make sure I got the garrison buttoned down. So, anyway, we'll see. Like not Oprah, but Whoopi Goldberg says, you know, let's chill out and just wait and see. So, on a lighter note, I got those accounts set up that I was going to get into the investing with, but the funding hasn't settled. So, you know, with all of the security nowadays that you have to go through on online stuff, everything's got to be authorized and settled, at least the first time, before, you know, you can start transacting stuff. So probably be a few more days for that to happen. And I haven't had a chance to look into the Acorn app. I want to look into that too, because I heard that was a pretty good app. And I want to put that up there and get that queued up so I can show what that looks like. For those that may be interested, if you do not have Robinhood, or if you have not gotten a broker like Charles Schwab, I do most of my business with Charles Schwab. I was going to put the Acorn setup up there for those that may want to check that out. So, having said that, also, I've gotten away from Project 2025. Got to get back into that just to get a few more things out of the way on that, because there is a few more nuggets in there that need to be put out. So, having said that, this is in the future, okay? Hopefully, by Friday, that funding will be settled, and I can go in, put it up on the screen here, and we can get into it. So that's where I'm going to go with that. That ought to be good. That ought to be good, because I am literally, hey Charles, I am literally going to go step by step and go into what all the, or at least most of those numbers you see, those percentages you see, those ratios you see, the wording. We're going to get into all of that step by step. And I'm going to go slow. I'm going to slow it up, go slow, and anything you miss, you could just tune back in on, and watch it over again. So I'm going to make sure that it's one step at a time, because I don't know if you paid any attention today. What happened today on Wall Street, the Federal Reserve dropped interest rates by 0.25%. And you would think that's a good thing. Of course that's a good thing. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? Well, if that's a good thing, why did the stock market lose 1,100 points today? 1,100 points down. Why did that happen? Because when you're listening to the Federal Reserve on Federal Reserve Wednesdays, they always announce a rate increase or decrease on a Wednesday. And when they announce, they also give guidance as to what they plan to do moving forward. Today, they announced that they're going to slow up reducing interest rates. And for some reason, Wall Street just can't stand it when they say, oh, we're going to slow up reducing interest rates. Wall Street wants those interest rates down right now. And, justly so, because the interest rates are high, and bringing them down to help out with credit card payments and car payments and house loans. I tell you what else bringing those interest rates down will help. It will help some of those stocks that I was telling y'all about. The real estate investment trust stocks. Real estate investment trust stocks fall under the category of financials. And interest rate reductions always help financials. See how those two go together? Interest rate reductions and financials. So, we're going to get into that and learn how those are tied together. So, like I said, every now and then, come on, you got to do this for me. Every now and then, just go on one of the financial shows and listen, just to hear what they're saying, just to get a taste of, the language the sound of it, listen to some of the, words they use, because we're going to go over them and we're going to explain exactly what they are. By the way, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up for me if you can. If you're tired, if your hands is tired, I understand. But anyway, so that's what's going to be in store. And it's going to be a good lesson because a lot of people are scared to invest. Trust me, there's nothing to be scared of. You see the stock market go down 1,000 points, trust me, nothing to be scared of, And the stocks that I'm talking about, they only move this much when the stock market goes down. They may move down like this, and they may move up like this. But trust me, you'll want to own them. On that note, I guess I'm going to call it good right there and see if I can get that. Unfortunately, this has taken a long time to set up that account. And I know why. It's all of this security you got to do now because of, hackers. Yeah, that's just the way it is. So on that note, I'm going to put that up there right there. If you got questions, send them to me in an email and I will try and dig up the answer. And we go from there. So I appreciate you all as usual. I will see you Friday night, 7 o'clock. On that note, have a good one. Take it easy.